All right, so friends, we did a different video around how to choose the right vault for you, which, in Lazy Summer, it's much less, many less options than just generally in DeFi. So it's a fewer decisions, but important decisions nonetheless. But today we really want to focus on a couple of different vaults, and we want to do a little bit of a deep dive on highlight three different vaults. So that's going to be the USDC Higher-Risk strategy on Mainnet. It's going to be the USDC Higher-Risk, or the USDC just lower-risk, strategy on Base, and it's going to be the ETH Lower-Risk strategy on Mainnet. So we're going to just select those assets here. We're going to select the two networks here. Really quickly get a nice idea that you'll see there are a few different options that you have. And as I said in a previous video, we went through how to kind of select these easily. But we want to do a deep dive on a couple of them and just explore what they're about and answer a few key questions or highlight a few key things about them. So the first one is USDC Higher-Risk. So USDC Higher-Risk is a vault that is always, or has been, or was designed to give users exposure to more aggressive, more adventurous strategies within DeFi. So within, for example, Morpho, you'll see there's a bunch of different strategies or vaults that you can choose from, and it can be hard to determine, like, well, how does this one differ from that one, and all of these different things, and beyond just maybe looking at just the APY itself. And then similarly, if you take a broader view outside of just Morpho, you'll see that there are a bunch of different yield sources beyond just lending that are available in DeFi. And this is what this vault is all about. So I love really just focusing on the yield sources here, or the vault exposure. And you can see that this vault, the USDC Higher-Risk Vault, gives exposure to a bunch of very different, very interesting yield sources. So we have Silo, for example. We have Morpho USDC Relend. We have Sky Rewards, which is not even lending, that's farming. Farming the Sky token emissions, basically, and that's just incredible for me. And that's what I really just wanted to highlight here with the USDC Higher-Risk strategy, is that it's really a vault that's all about giving users exposure to this more adventurous yield, but still within the bounds of high quality, still within the bounds of non-Ponzi, basically, yield strategies, and of course doing that all automatically. So yeah, that's really USDC Higher-Risk. And one other thing to highlight here is that these strategies, so not just USDC Higher-Risk, but also the other ones that we're going to explore, are constantly evolving. So these are the vaults, or the exposure, the underlying yield sources that this vault has exposure to today. But as governance, as new vaults are proposed, new arcs or strategies are proposed, this will constantly evolve. So that's really great. As the market evolves in DeFi, you're always having this exposure, having this sort of wrapper, or this wrapper to all of these more adventurous strategies. So it's really, really an amazing strategy or vault that I wanted to highlight really quickly. The next one that I wanted to highlight is USDC Lower-Risk. So this is on Base. And so first, how does this kind of differ? Of course, the lower risk means, in this context, yield sources that are generally only lending, generally only like it's all high quality assets and high quality yield sources on Lazy Summer, but in this case, really thinking about it in terms of, the tip top, the blue chip of blue chip yield sources. And the reason why I highlight this base one is because the base yields, or the yield sources on base, are less than mainnet, generally speaking. Like the amount of yield sources, the amount of strategies is certainly less than on mainnet. And one thing that is really great about this USDC strategy is if you are on base and you're a user of base and you like to be on base, which especially now as it seems the bull market is picking up and maybe there are new entrants into the DeFi yield ecosystem, and you want to be on base, the base network, this is just such a nice way to get exposure to all of the best stuff on base without having to do a bunch of work. So this is kind of a showcase, if you will, of USDC, the lower risk strategy on base, which is really a strategy that's all about getting exposure to the best of the best on base automatically. You don't have to do anything. And you can kind of see this on the rebalance activity, where all of this is happening automatically under the hood, and rebalancing is happening automatically. So that's great. So lastly, want to dig into the ETH lower risk strategy on base. So this is a very similar explanation, let's say, or a similar showcase of the ETH sort of lower risk strategy, as we just talked about the USDC lower risk strategy on base. But one thing that I think here that's worth highlighting is in a similar vein, these are like the most blue chip sort of yield sources for ETH. So, you could, of course, just decide to do some type of liquid staking for your ETH, which is also good. But these yield sources that, a user is getting for their ETH just allows you to sort of compound your ETH faster over time. These are really only the highest quality yield sources for your ETH. And I think that as we see the price of ETH going up, maybe that's making people more bullish to hold ETH, or if you held ETH before, maybe you're even more inclined to hold ETH, but now you want to earn a yield on that ETH, and that's great. You can do that, within the Lazy Summer protocol, without having to think too deeply or very deeply around all of the different sort of risk assumptions that come with that, or having to trust only one yield source, because in the Lazy Summer protocol you get this sort of diversified source of yield from many different protocols that are all very high quality, from many different yield sources that are all very high quality. So that you're not only compounding your yield, compounding your earning from ETH, from the ETH that you own, but you're also, of course, still getting the price exposure to ETH itself. So that's great. So if you hold a bunch of ETH, or you held a bunch of ETH, you saw the price appreciation go up, and you just want to earn extra passive yield without having to only deposit into one yield source, this ETH lower risk strategy is just really incredible. So these are somewhat of a deep dive, but really just an exploration of three strategies, three vaults within the Lazy Summer protocol that I wanted to highlight, that I think many different people would all benefit from. The USDC Higher-Risk if you're a more adventurous stablecoin user on Mainnet, the ETH lower-risk strategy if you're a new holder of ETH or an old holder of ETH that just wants to get diversified yield source yield sources to compound how much ETH you're stacking basically over time, over the long term. So you're, long term oriented holder, let's say. And then of course the USDC lower risk strategy on base if you're sort of new to the ecosystem.